All right, so this is just a presentation on like basic resume writing and tips, which I've kind of been doing over the past couple months, mainly just focusing on people's resumes and helping get them in order to best um, present people to companies and stuff. So let's just go ahead and get started, maybe. All right. So just some expectations for what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go over like before you even start creating your resume, what you should be doing. And then we'll go over formatting and what information you need to have on it. And then any extra little things you might want to add. And then we'll end with talking about what sort of language you should be using and how that affects the quality of your resume. So before you start even putting together your resume, the first thing you want to do is research the company. You want to know what their goals are, what their objectives are, kind of their mission statement. You want to know what that company stands for and why they do what they do. That helps you better know how to portray yourself, and it helps you know if you even like want to work with this company. Does it match your values and what you stand for? And because working with a company, it's important to have those things in common. And then you'll want to research job specifically. You want to know, you're going to want to know what the duties and goals are for that job. And you want to know, like, is it a good match for your skill set? Should you be looking into a different similar job that better matches what you know and what you can do? And all those things are really important before you even start your resume so that you know what to put on your resume, what to showcase, and all of that. And also looking at examples is so helpful. If you can find examples of resumes specifically for the job you want, or even just different formattings and stuff, it helps you better understand how you want to format your resume and what it should look like, what sort of skills and things should be on it. So looking at those examples really helps before you even start. I'm paying really close attention to like the language and desired skill sets for the company and the job will help you as you build your resume as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So moving on to formatting, there's two main types of resumes that are the most beneficial. There's a lot of other formats as well, but these two are the main ones that people look for, and they're really easy to figure out, and people know where the different subsections will be on them and everything. So the first one is a skills based resume. Which is kind of self-explanatory, more focused on like the relevance to those skills. So rather than having it chronological, you might put like, oh, I have experience doing document like sorry. You might have experience doing like data entry or something, and you might want that above a job at a fast food place, even if the fast food place was more recent. And then there's the reverse chronological, which is where you just list your experiences and stuff in order from most recent to least recent. And so the next thing you want to like pay attention to is your margins and fonts. You want everything to look professional and classy. You don't want crazy fonts. You want Times New Roman or Arial or a very easy to read font. And you want the margins to look nice and not be crazy all over the place. Just make it look good and professional and clean so that people aren't looking at it and getting super confused. And again, with the labels, you want to make sure that each section of your resume is clearly labeled with a heading so they know what they're looking at and it doesn't all get mixed up and confusing. And then with appropriate subsections, you don't want to have like a million different things. Like it's great if you have a lot of skills or achievements or languages, and that's important, but you also don't want to overdo it with adding those. Those are also things that you can bring up and discuss in interviews that might get lost in just a quick resume scan. Also, you definitely do not want it to be longer than 2 pages. It's best if it can be shortened to 1 page, just because the people going through resumes are not taking the time to read through everything. They want a quick glance for specific things. They don't want to have like 4 pages of stuff. They just want to see that you know what job you're applying to, and they want to see that you have experience and skills, and that's it. It's usually, they usually don't look at these resumes for longer than like a minute. So having anything longer than 2 pages really doesn't help you any and is actually detrimental because they're more likely to be like, this is too much, and just throw it away so that they can move on to other people where it's easier and clearer to find what they're looking for. All right, and then we've got some important information that you should have on your resume. Obviously, you want to start off with your contact information. You want your name to be super clear up at the top, and then you want your email and your phone number and your address all right there, just right at the top where they can easily find it and see it. So if they want to contact you, they have that information and it's not lost in all the other stuff. And I know some people have like asked me about like addresses and stuff. It's important to have at least your city and state, just so recruiters have like know where you're at, know where you're located, especially we do a lot of remote jobs and stuff, and those, like, it's important for them to know your time zones and where you are and whether or not they need to relocate you for whatever they need you to do. And then you'll want a professional summary right underneath your contact information. This helps you show that you have experience and what your objectives are. And it's a quick and easy thing for recruiters to read, and then they don't even necessarily have to go through the rest of the resume. It makes their lives a lot easier, and it shows that you've put in the time and effort to really research the job and the company, and you know what they're looking for, and you know, and you've done the self-reflection to know what you're looking for as well. And so then obviously you want to add experience and education. You can kind of decide which one you want first on your resume. Experience is usually more helpful just because it's more relevant, and it shows that you've actually done work and everything. But if you're applying for something that you might not have as much job experience in, but you have the education that goes along with it, then obviously you would want to have the education first, because you want them to be able to see that quickly, that you have these skills, you've learned what you need to, and you can move on. These sections should not be more than half a page at the very, very most. Like you want them to be very relevant. You don't want to add like 12 years of experience on your resume, because it's not relevant anymore after about 5 or 6. So you probably don't need to add anything that's too much further back than that, just because you've moved on from that, you've learned a lot more, you've had other experiences, and they don't care necessarily what you did 6 years ago, they care what you can still do. When we move on to skills, skills are important to have on your resume, but you also want this section to be very short. You want it to be super relevant, like super specific to the job you're applying to. You don't want random skill sets that don't apply, because they're going to be like, why do I care? And also you want to make sure that in this section you have a mixture of hard skills and soft skills. You want very specific, like office-based things, very specific things you can do, and then also have some soft skills, like you're good at communicating or other important things for working with other people, but that aren't necessarily super specific for that job. And then you can add extra stuff to your resume. You usually don't want to add too much, because again, we want to keep it under those 2 pages anyway. And if you have a lot of experience or education or the skills, those are more important than these other things. But sometimes like achievements or certifications, or even like if you're bilingual or whatever, those can help you in getting a job as well. It just kind of depends on the job, and it goes back to, again, knowing what the objectives are for the company and the job that you're applying for, and knowing what they're looking for. So if it's something where CPR certification is a bonus, then obviously you would want to add that on your resume to show that you have that. But if it's not super important, then you don't necessarily need to add that to your resume, because again, it's one of those like, why do I care? It's just taking up space. You can also add references at the end of your resume. It's not super important, and honestly, most recruiters will ask for references if they have decided to go with you. So they usually don't pay that much attention to any references on the resume, but it can be helpful if it's like between you and another person and they want to check those references before they call you or interview you or whatever. And it can provide like extra insight on you, but it's not super important. It's really more if you don't have a lot of other experience or education or skills, having those references can help just pad that resume a little bit and allow them to realize that like you do have skills and you are personable and you have people that will vouch for you on that. And then we have the cover letter. Cover letters, it's kind of funny because when I started school, like cover letters were not an important thing, but now they're more important. And so it's kind of an iffy, like either way. And not all jobs ask for them, but it is a good way to show you care, and it's another resource for them. And it gives you a little bit extra space to really go into what you are looking forward to in this job, what you can bring to the table, how you can help, and also show that you have done that research on the company and on the job, and you know what they're looking for and what they want, and you are willing to do that. So they're a really good idea, and they show a lot of dedication and like thought put into it. But again, they're not always necessary. So if you feel like you don't have the time to write a really specific cover letter or anything, like don't worry about it, but also it will help you. And then we'll move on. This is kind of the last major section. It's just language. Language on a resume is like probably the most important thing. It affects how well they read your resume, how quickly they can read it. It shows whether or not you took the time to make sure that everything was put together well, and that you have really put the time into show them that you know what they want, what they need. And yeah, so you want to be very clear and concise. Again, they won't take more than a minute to look at your resume. So you want as few words as possible. You want to get to the point and let them know this is what I've done, this is what I did, so that they can just quickly file that away, figure out if you have what they need. You also want to use keywords. Keywords from the company and job description. Again, if you've done your research, find exactly what they are asking for. A lot companies and jobs have like a specific list of these are the things that we want from you, and from applicants. Use those words in your resume. Change it up for every job so that it matches, so they can see that not only did you create this resume and you have those skills, but you've also gone in and figured out what they want, and you can show how you can transfer skills from different jobs to do what they need. And then we have active language. Active language kind of confuses people a lot, but it's just very it's kind of just clear and concise language with strong verbs. So you want to say I increased or achieved or managed, and it usually helps you put everything into measurable terms. So if you're saying, oh, I managed this group of people, that makes a lot more sense than like I was in a group of people that put together this. Like it helps just show a little more prestige, a little more knowledge, and makes you seem less passive aggressive about things. It shows that you are confident in what you've done, and it helps you to be to just show more measurable goals and objectives that you've achieved. And then we have spelling and grammar, which as an English person is one of my like biggest things, but it really is one of the most important things on your resume, just because if you have a lot of typos or grammatical errors or anything, the person reading it is going to notice that, and it's going to frustrate them because they don't want to have to try to figure out what you meant to say. And also it just seems really unprofessional. It seems like you didn't really care. You didn't take the time to edit. Just spelling and grammar are like super important. You need to be double checking that. Computers are great now. They have their own spell checks and grammar checks and everything. Use those. And don't forget to proofread. You've done all of this effort. You put it all together. Don't forget to proofread it, because you don't want to put in all of that effort and then realize later that you accidentally misspelled something, or your font was off in this one section, or you didn't have your sections separated well enough. Like you want to make sure that it's all put together as cleanly and nicely as possible. And having someone else look over your resume really helps. They might be able to see something that you hadn't quite noticed because you've been looking at it for who knows how long. And they can help you understand if it's too busy, if it's overwhelming, if there's too many references, or if there's any typos. So I recommend definitely having someone else look over it as well, and just kind of having that checklist and making sure that you've got your margins and there's no typos and your font is consistent and all of that. And that's all that I have prepared. But if anybody has any questions, I'm willing to answer those.
Yeah, no questions, but thank you. Thank you for doing this for us.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, if there are, oh, Suli, do you have a question?
Not one in particular. Well, actually, I guess I was wondering about the part where you had said that if you have like jobs from like 6 years ago, maybe don't put them on there. But what if it's like a notable job that you think would stand out, even if it has nothing to do with the company you're applying for, but it just really stands out as a notable job that no one else usually does? Then could you include that one?
I think there's going to be like slight exceptions to that. If you feel that it's really notable and that it will catch someone's attention and make you seem like a better candidate, then go ahead and add that. It's kind of a typical general rule that usually jobs more than 5 or 6 years ago aren't super relevant to you and your skills anymore. But that's not going to say that like there's not going to be the odd job that doesn't fall under that category. Like sometimes there are jobs that are super cool and show that you've done extra stuff. And that would be important to add to your resume as well. It's kind of you kind of have to figure that out for yourself, whether or not you really think it's relevant to what they're doing and what they're looking for or not. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess like a case by case basis.
Yeah.
I think in general, though, I would put it like for me, I still put that I have my black belt, that I got my Eagle Scout. Those things, even though I got them a long time ago, there's still major accomplishments that take a lot of work, practice, dedication to a particular thing. And it's a cool talking point. It's been brought up on multiple interviews. Oh, you're a black belt? Like, tell me about that. And so it's really fun. And it kind of makes you more of a person versus just an applicant.
Yeah. Those
Awesome.
I would put more under like achievements and stuff. I think jobs, if you had a job like say 6 years ago that you were at for 10 years or something, that's also like a good thing that you would want to add because it shows that you have that loyalty and that dedication and that you'll stay for a long time. So yeah, it's kind of a case by case basis depending on how relevant you think it is and how it best shows you as a person and what you're capable of and what you're willing to do.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions for Talia? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Talia, for this presentation, for your help with resumes these past few months. And I hope everyone learns something about how they can improve their resumes for those who are applying now, or improve them while you're still in your current position, so that next time you do apply, you're a very, very strong applicant. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful night.